All right, listeners, thank you for hanging in there with us. Once again, it's CFRO and streaming at www.coopradio.org, also on the dial at 100.5 FM. And joining us on the line now is Mediha Hodzic, who is a Bosnian Muslim residing here in Vancouver and is a community organizer with Apartheid-Free Communities. And we've invited them to come here today and join us and speak with us about some of the community activism that they've been doing and also about apartheid-free cities. So thank you so much for taking this time out and joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, the pleasure is ours. I guess I want to begin by asking you to share with us a little bit about this connection to Palestine, being a Bosnian Muslim, growing up in Bosnia, and then coming out here. Can you just contextualize a little bit about yourself, some of the experiences that you remember or your families had been through?
Yeah, thanks for the question. There's definitely a connection between the two. I was in Bosnia. I was 6 years old when the war or genocide started there in 1992. And my father was taken to a concentration camp, taken to several concentration camps over about 8 months, while my mom took care of me and my younger sister, who was 1 at the time. And yeah, it was, a horrible time, but I was also a child, and so I remember it in these childish ways. My parents, obviously, who were in their 30s, have much stronger memories, and probably much more horrible memories. I was thankfully sheltered from a lot of it. But it was something, because of that, because of the fact that my father was in a concentration camp, when the Red Cross discovered these concentration camps, and released all of the hostages, prisoners, they were made to leave Bosnia with the promise of not coming back. So our family, within a matter of weeks, we were in Canada as refugees.
And then I guess you grew up here, you had your education here.
Yeah, so I was 7 when I moved here, and I've lived here ever since 1993. And my parents always instilled in us in that, social justice, political justice, and even before in Bosnia, they were always very, well educated and well versed in politics and history, and they're strong believers. If you don't know your history, you will repeat it. And so, growing up, my sister and I, our dinner time conversations were often about current events, and I would say I credit 90% of what I know about the world as it is, thanks to my parents. The education system has a certain curriculum that we follow, but it doesn't often touch on some of these current events. It kind of stops, maybe World War II, at least when I was in school.
Yeah, can I ask you, what were your perceptions of Canada, after growing up here before October 7th, and how have they changed, if they have changed since then?
Oh, they've changed so much. I was so proud. It's such a weird thing also to be this, so proud of something, but I was so proud to be Canadian. And I was so proud also, going back to Bosnia, I was proud to not be American, because they do have a different, people look at America differently, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had this gratitude, and I still do to a large extent, but the last 2 years have changed so much in me. There's just, I look at especially the Indigenous issues here in Canada, I look at that with such a different lens now. And even with Palestine, all the things that we talked about at home, and a lot of it was, if I may add, home speak. We were taught about Palestine, but it was don't talk about it publicly because you'll be labeled anti-Semitic and all these horrible things that we aren't. But yeah, when we had these conversations, I never made the connection with the Indigenous people here and that settler colonialism. And it wasn't really until this current genocide, and I do say current genocide because the genocide has been continuous in different forms in Palestine over 80 years, right? But it really opened my eyes to Canada's complicity, and I wanted to believe that someone was going to come and save Palestine on a shining white horse. and it became really apparent very quickly that that wasn't going to happen.
I want to backtrack a little bit, if you don't mind. I want to ask you, like, can you explore how, or sort of like when this connection between the Indigenous folks here started happening with you? When you, like, how did that play out for you?
Yeah, like it was gradual, and now it's kind of like anything, like a flood, and now I kind of see it so much more clearly. Like, I've worked with Indigenous folks in different capacities over, 15 plus years, and I didn't really quite see that in school we were taught, all of these white settlers, all of us here, not white only, all of the settlers here, were these pioneers that came and whatever, all this like very positive terminology around it. But after going to protests and seeing the Indigenous people standing with the Palestinian people who are Indigenous to Palestine, and then started to make that connection, oh my gosh, this is deeper than a lot of things that I had contextualized it as. Like, it really is something that's been made so normal here, that what was done to the Indigenous people, and it's a necessary part of the whole scheme, because that then allows us to continue to do it elsewhere around the world. And that's really how I see it now. And I still am, like, so grateful to Canada for everything that my family, the privileges that we were given. But, one of the things that I've done with the Palestinian communities is these sit-ins at the IRCC, the Immigration, Refugee, and Canadian Citizenship Canada ministry, and really just to bring awareness to the family reunification visa program for Gazans, which really never materialized any reunification.
So this is a national movement of folks in different cities doing these sit-ins. Is that right?
Yeah. And there's a contingent here in Vancouver, and it was focused around two primary families that we're trying to bring. Their families met all the criteria that the visa program had laid out, but they still have not evacuated them. And now there's a ceasefire. Presumably it'd be even easier to get folks reunited with their families here, but it's just not happening. And these double standards. Oh, right. So that was connection to me. I feel like I was whisked away out of Bosnia. I'm sure it was more complex than that, but in my childhood memory, it was just this thing. My dad was released, and it was this horrible and also beautiful time where we were just so happy to be alive. Mm-hmm. And we were reunited in Croatia, where my sister and my mom and I were. And then we were in Canada. And now, with Gaza, it's been 2 years, and these families are still waiting.
Yeah, especially when we compare it to other groups. The most recent is the Ukrainians. Not to say that Syrians weren't assisted, but Afghans, I think, are still waiting in some cases for promises of entry into Canada. It's funny, right? Because originally there was no real entry into Canada. People that came here, settlers, colonialists, were guests or newcomers in a way, according to different terminology. But it's a funny place to be in, certainly in Canada, when we have this polarity. On the one hand, we see Canada and how it is assisting, or the role that it plays as something that is a good in the world, and then yet we have witnessed, not only in the last 2 years but even previously, how it treats not only Indigenous people here, but then other groups of refugees that are coming into the country or want to come into the country. Yeah, it's a funny place. We're in. I think that a lot of people are waking up to this in terms of understanding this situation, and a lot of people are getting involved, and as you are as well. And I wanted to just invite you to talk a little bit about something that a number of Canadians are also undertaking, which is directly supporting through finances or other means folks that are in Gaza. And can you talk a little bit about that?
There were so many attempts by many people to alleviate the situation as it became apparent that like the humanitarian aid was being blocked, and you're just watching a whole population starve. Like I think that was really the breaking point for a lot of people. For some reason, all the bombs and all that terror, was kind of classified as war. But then when it became the starvation, I think I saw it touch people differently. But prior to that, I had got in touch with a family in Gaza, and yeah, it's something that I was like really scared to navigate. But there's a huge group of people that are doing this all around the world, including here in Canada, where you're essentially assisting people directly. There's no tax receipt that you get for that, and you can send them funds, however much you can, or can support them. But the other part of it is you're talking to them directly, and that can be so difficult. I mean, I'm not trained in that. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist, and so. But the funny thing is, that part of it was really overwhelming to me, to think about supporting someone and chatting with them, like just talking to them on WhatsApp. But so much of that was them supporting me, which is so weird. Like, this family is so beautiful and so wonderful, and they're keeping me calm in a way. And it's just been this beautiful relationship that I've developed over the last 9 months now.
Wow. And so had you always been a community activist?
No, and I do struggle with that term, okay. I don't feel worthy of that. Who is an activist? And no, I have not. Like, I've always cared about people, I think, as most people do. And I've looked for opportunities. I have volunteered in the past, in Boys and Girls Club and that sort of thing. And I think that goes back to feeling indebted, having this, like, survivor's guilt, maybe, feeling like I was chosen in some way by this country or by higher power, God, whatever. And so, like, I've looked for those opportunities. But this is by far, the last couple of years has been by far, like, a huge ramp up in that. And it was kind of one step after another that I didn't consciously plan.
Can you tell us more about apartheid-free communities? How did you get connected to it? And then what is it?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with what is it. It's a community initiative. It's a global initiative, and people can learn more on apartheid-free.org. And it's a pledge that organizations can take. It's not on an individual level. People take the pledge as an organization, whether you're a faith group or a business or a nonprofit or whatever. And the pledge that you're taking is that you're not going to be involved in apartheid. And it does seem, it is symbolic in a lot of ways, but it lays the groundwork to working toward, dismantling that apartheid that exists in Palestine or Israel, and the classist system where Palestinians are second-class citizens and don't have the same rights that others do. So by taking the pledge, you become involved in this community. I got involved just through the various activities. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people that organize, and you meet them at protests or you meet them at community events. And, if you show interest, they kind of pull you in. And so I met Gita, who's instrumental in the BC chapter of Apartheid-Free Communities a few months ago, and just got involved with kind of helping out wherever I can. So we have a symposium coming up on November 8th for all the signatories. And I just want to say that we have over 200 people, or over 200 organizations that have signed the pledge in BC, which is just massive.
That's
the momentum has been huge, especially since the city of Burnaby passed the resolution to become the first Canadian apartheid-free city.
Awesome. Isn't it awesome that happened?
Oh, it is.
And 200 signatories to the supporting to be apartheid free. Sorry, I was stumbling for words there.
Okay.
Maybe because that's a huge success. That's a fantastic number. And so now you guys have planned a symposium for the signatories to come and get more information learned.
Yeah, just to connect with each other, to kind of build. The ceasefire has been amazing. Obviously, the fact that this isn't this accelerated genocide, as we've seen over the last 2 years, is really instrumental. There is still violence that's happening, and it's not a true ceasefire, but that's a separate story altogether. But with that ceasefire, there's also like a sigh of relief and a lessening of kind of the urgency. And so we just want people to gather together and celebrate the fact that we have these signatories, the fact that we've made all this movement, but also the fact that there's so much more work to do. And I don't want to overwhelm all the signatories, but there is, connections to be made and meeting each other and just learning from each other. And we're going to have different breakout sessions for people to participate. It's a full day event, and people can learn and meet each other. Yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity. And if people are thinking about signing the pledge, now is a great time to do it, because you'll be invited to the symposium and you can make these connections.
And where do you go online for this?
Yeah, so it's apartheid-free.org, and then the pledge is like really apparent right on that main page.
Okay, that's awesome. And November 8th is when you've planned for the symposium, an all-day event.
Yes, and that'll be in Vancouver. So it
Vancouver,
is,
okay.
for the Lower Mainland folks primarily, but of course, if anyone from BC wanted to travel, they're welcome to.
Oh, yeah. Where is the location? Has it been set already?
No, it hasn't been set,
Okay.
but that will be shared with the signatories.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I hope that you guys get a big turnout, but even if you don't, it's going to be such an awesome step towards getting organizations and communities who have signed on to apartheid-free communities come together and meet each other and decide how they can support each other and move forward. And one of the actions I know that you guys are also undertaking is a call for bank divestment. And can you want to touch a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's not directly related to apartheid-free communities.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Okay.
Yeah, so the divestment was another campaign that I helped with another group called Community Action for Palestine. And a lot of these groups you can find on Instagram, and we do check our DMs. So if people reach out, they can get involved. And yeah, the divestment was a huge campaign that we undertook to get people to take their money out of banks, because all the traditional banks are invested in war, essentially, not just in Palestine, but that's a huge investment for a lot of banks, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you join a credit union, local credit unions will lend your money that you keep in the bank, whether that's $1 or $10,000 or whatever, however much you have. A lot of people think, I don't have enough money to matter, but we all matter, right? So the credit unions lend your money out to local organizations, right? Local mom and pop shops that are trying to start up and need a loan. That's where they would go, as a credit union. So it's great for the environment, for your community to be part of a credit union versus a big bank. And that was something, I think probably the biggest financial thing that I've done for Palestine is take my money out of the bank that I was with and move it into a credit union.
That's fantastic, and what a pretty simple thing to be able to do. And there are alternatives, like you were mentioning, so folks can consider that. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us as part of this conversation about moving communities towards more consciousness around what's going on and how it's connected to here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like finding those connections, and I really felt that momentum more than ever right before the ceasefire. And again, so grateful for all the people in Palestine that there is a ceasefire. But I think there's been a bit of a lessening of the pressure, just because people are thinking, okay, it's good now, but it's far from good, right? There's still so much work to do. So I'd like to leave people with, a little nudge to, hey, if you've thought about it in any way, reach out, on Instagram to Apartheid Free Communities BC is the Instagram handle, or Community Action for Palestine, Parents for Palestine YVR. There's lots of these groups. Once you find one, you'll find the others. And just get involved. And whether that's going to a community event and just kind of learning, going to a movie, there's movie nights, taking your kids. I've got 2 little kids, and I take them to all sorts of events. There's kid-friendly events. Just making sure that it's still a topic and that it's not something that we're done with that. Those 2 horrible years are over. Now we can just go back to the regular occupation that they've been experiencing for 80 years.
No, that's right. Absolutely, because the need is so much more. It's not just like, okay, it's over, flip the channel. There's going to be work and continued work, because the pendulum can easily swing back and forth easily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been great
Absolutely.
connecting with you. Thank you so much for taking a bit of time out for your evening and joining us and informing us about apartheid-free communities, community action for Palestine, and some of the other individual work you're doing. You're welcome.
Awesome.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for
It's
having
our
me.
pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. You take care.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. And still there at 100.5 FM. If everything is all right with the system and we're continuing on, then we'd be broadcasting